A jury sentenced the unrepentant racist Dylaan Roof to death Tuesday for killing 9 black parishioners at a historic Charleston, South Carolina church. In closing remarks, Roof showed no desire to fight for his life. "I felt like I had to do it, and I still feel like I had to do it," Roof said in closing remarks to the jury. "I have a right to ask you to give me a life sentence, but I'm not sure what good that would do anything." Roof acted as his own lawyer during the sentencing phase of the trial and did not put on a defense or call any witnesses. Instead, he dedicated most of his efforts to ensuring that the jury would hear no evidence regarding his mental health or family history. Prosecutors, meanwhile, called 25 witnesses over the course of 4 days. The relatives and loved ones of the 9 victims, as well as survivors, gave heart-wrenching testimony about the trauma of the mass shooting on June 17, 2015. Prosecutors also introduced excerpts of Roof's journal, in which he wrote that he believed he would eventually be pardoned if he received life in prison. Roof also wrote that he thought Adolf Hitler would one day be canonized as a saint. Last month, the same jury that sentenced Roof to death found him guilty on all 33 counts for the shooting. Evidence showed that Roof had self-radicalized by immersing himself in racist culture online. He practiced shooting, scouted potential houses of worship, and visited historically significant sites of slavery around South Carolina.
Death. Dylaan Roof has been sentenced to death in Charleston, South Carolina. The man behind the killing of 9 churchgoers at a predominantly black church in Charleston, South Carolina, and represented himself, acted as his own lawyer without calling any witnesses in his own defense. The only issue here was whether he'd be facing life imprisonment or death. It is death. Jonathan Sari is on scene and can tell us more. Jonathan.
Neil, Dylaan Roof looked down with his hands folded as the jury read its verdict. They agreed to all of the prosecution's allegations against him, that he willfully committed these murders, that he hated African Americans, that this was indeed a hate crime, and then they handed down their decision that Dylaan Roof indeed should be sentenced to death. The jury had to come up with a unanimous verdict on the sentence in order for him to be sentenced to execution. Otherwise, the default sentence would have been life in prison without the possibility of release. Earlier today, Dylaan Roof, acting as his own attorney, delivered his own closing argument. His closing argument lasted for only 5 minutes. He quietly asked the jury to give him a life sentence, and then rhetorically asked the jury, quote, "Wouldn't it be fair to say that the prosecution hates me because they're trying to give me the death penalty? Anyone who hates anything in their mind has a good reason for it, and sometimes that's because they've been misled, and sometimes it isn't. But I would say that in this case, the prosecution, along with anyone else who hates me, are the ones who have been misled." In his brief closing argument, Dylaan Roof argued that he was not filled with hate, as the prosecution had alleged, but the lead prosecutor in this case, delivering a closing argument that lasted a little bit longer than 2 hours, argued that Roof remained unrepentant and reminded jurors that as recently as this very trial, he had attended some of the hearings walking into the courtroom wearing shoes with handwritten racist symbols on them. Obviously, the jurors were persuaded by the prosecution's case and their closing argument, agreeing that Dylaan Roof should pay the ultimate penalty for killing 9 members of Emmanuel AME Church back in 2015. Neil.
Jonathan, thank you very much. Jonathan Sari, Fox News anchor.
Hello everyone, my name is Melvin Graham, MELVIN GRAHAM. I just want to say that today we had justice for my sister. Today we got justice for Melvin and Henrietta Graham's daughter, Joe and Dorcina's granddaughter, Stephen and Martha's granddaughter. As I sat in the courtroom, this is a very hollow victory because my sister's still gone. I wish that this verdict could have brought her back, but it can't. But what it can do is just send a message to those who feel the way he feels, that this community will not tolerate it. When my sister was killed, this community pulled together in a way that I had never seen before. And I just wish that that feeling, that love that we show for each other in the city of Charleston, in the state of South Carolina, and around the nation, the warm words, the prayers that came in would continue. I just want this to stop. I really do. I'm tired. Every time I hear about a shooting, I cry. We have to stop this. And I think that if we could just stand up for each other like we did in the beginning, then maybe we got a pretty good shot of stamping this out. But we got to stand together. And I want just to close my statement by thanking everyone, from my brother Robert Moutry, Gilbert Moutry, Malcolm Graham, Gabriel Jones, myself. We thank you. And I just want to say, I heard a poem, I'm going to paraphrase it. And it said, when they came for the Indians, I said nothing because I was not Indian. When they came for the blacks, I said nothing because I was not black. When they came for the Jews, I said nothing because I was not Jewish. And then one day they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Today, this community stood up loud and clear and spoke for the Emmanuel and I.
Does anybody have any questions? Just raise your hand. First name is Melvin, M-E-L-V-I-N. And Melvin, which city do you live in?
I live in Goose Creek.
Sorry?
Goose Creek.
Goose Creek, okay, very good.
And it's Melvin Graham.
Yes.
Melvin.